Greetings. Welcome to Conversations with Tony Mobley. Today, my guest is Paul Walhus, the CEO of Spring Entertainment and a web developer who also has his hands in a lot of different technologies. Today, this is episode 5 of 2025. Conversation with Tony Mobley. We're back. We want to thank everyone for being a part of this new journey powered by Mimo Live. I want to thank the team behind Conversation with Tony Mobley for all your hard work. You can participate in this conversation by going to Makana, which is courtesy of Alex Lindsay in 090. It is an interactive chat where you can put in your questions, and those questions not only can be put there, they can be voted up and down. We also have our Conversation with Tony Mobley website where you can also watch this conversation and feel free to look at other conversations that we've had in the past. Mukana does allow you to vote those questions up and down, and you can go to our website, Conversation with Tony Mobley, and you can ask your questions in the YouTube chat. And so now we're going to get right to it. We're going to have my office hours friend and acquaintance that we've been dealing with each other for over 5 years. We initially had some interaction in a program called Blab. And so we want to say good evening, hello, welcome, Paul Walhus.
Hey Tony, how you doing?
I'm good, sir. Good to have you.
All right. Well, glad to be on your show. Yeah, it seems like this last 4 years or so have just zipped on by, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. So first, I want to tell you, thank your wife for allowing you to share this time with me. I appreciate it. And we're going to get right to the very first question, which is, who is Paul Vahos?
Man, I don't know how to answer that. There's so many things come to mind. I'm just turned 80 in December, and I have a place in Texas where I am now. I have a place in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and we're shuttling back and forth a lot. And here I'm out on the land doing construction and building rentals and doing things like that. And in Arkansas, we just kind of go there to kind of relax and get away from it. It's a different environment. It's closer to where I grew up in the upper Midwest. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. Uh, and
Okay.
after I went through school in St. Louis, I then went away to college at University of Illinois and studied urban planning. From there, I went to Louisville, Kentucky, and I was a freelance photographer and urban planner. I hired on as an urban planner, but I ended up working for the Louisville Courier Journal and Times newspaper, and fell in love with Nikon computers, not computers, Nikon cameras, and
Me too.
so I had a lot of fun in Louisville. From there, I went out to San Francisco for a while. I studied Tai Chi. I did more photography out there. I worked as an urban planner there, and then I moved on to Minneapolis, where I worked as a city planner for a while also, and then did various things there. And then from Minneapolis, I went to Wyoming. I worked in the oil fields as a roughneck. What roused about on the gas rigs out in the desert in Wyoming. There was a TV series recently that really struck home with me. It was called Landman. It reminded me of those days in Wyoming and Texas where I
You
was
were
out in the
you weren't
oil
supposed
patch.
you weren't supposed to talk about that yet. I was going to bring that up.
You can bring it up
What you
later. All right,
what you thought about Landman?
erase that from your memory, and we didn't. I didn't say that. Anyway, from Wyoming, then I went to California. I was in California for a while. I lived in Bolinas. I lived in Marin County, Sonoma County. I bought 10 acres of land in Sonoma County and started an early stage cell phone company. We actually
Oh wow.
put
Okay.
a cellular setup on top of Sonoma Mountain, and we uh, we had early crude cell phones. They were large, very large cell phones that you had to push to talk. And then we developed a full duplex version. It was too early in the game though. And while I was in California, I went to work for part time for an outfit called the Whole Earth Software Review, and I reviewed software for them. I reviewed AppleWorks and BPI software because I had also worked in Austin for the first software company that went public called BPI, and I reviewed that in the Whole Earth Software Review, and went on to from California. Then I moved back to Texas. I'm skipping a whole bunch of stuff, but I moved
Oh,
back
that's
to.
okay. That's fine. That's fine. You have 80 years that you can share fully free on a conversation with Tony Mobley. So
That's fine.
please
That's
continue.
fine. All right. Then I moved back around 1980. I bought some land out in the country in Austin, and I built 3 houses. One of them, which I'm in right now, and did a lot of construction work and worked. And then I started a career in the software industry at BPI in the 80s, and then from there I moved on to a whole lot of different startups and major companies, IBM, Sematech, and other companies, and did some work in the tech industry for quite a few years. Anyway, I'm rambling, so
Well,
you bring us back on course here, Tony.
so Guy Cochran already heard you when you started talking about Landman. So his question is, tell us about being in the oil fields, Landman. He's calling
Okay.
you Landman.
Well, I was not a landman. The landman was the guy we worked out. We did the dirty work. We were out on the drilling rig on the floor, and we were operating heavy equipment. And the landman was the guy who had the fancy car, usually a Buick or a Chevy or Ford or an F-150 pickup. And he would just sit and watch us in the air conditioned comfort while we were out in minus 20 degrees in Wyoming, drilling like 7 miles in the ground, or in Texas. The landman was always present, and he'd watch us, and he's the guy that basically was the interface between the landowner and the oil company, and we were the guys who were actually doing the work out on the drilling rig. But that show that recently wrapped up on Paramount reminded me a lot of the stuff we went through out in the oil patch. There's even one scene in there where they had a rig blow up, and we had a real similar instance to that. We had I was out in Giddings, Texas, not too far from here, about 100 miles from where I am right now, and we were working on a rig. We were drilling, and the driller. I was just part of the crew, and the driller said, "Okay, guys, it's time to go eat lunch." So we were going to take a lunch break, and I turned to him and I said, "Look, don't you think we should put the BOP back on the hole? The BOP is the blowout preventer. And what that does is it keeps the rig from blowing up." And he said, "No, we're just going to eat lunch. We're only going to be gone for half an hour. And so we walk over to this spot about a couple 100 feet away, and we start eating lunch. And I look over at the rig, and all of a sudden, there's this plume of oil, hundreds of feet into the air, hundreds of
Wow.
feet. And literally, it was raining oil. And every one of us and the crew was black from head to toe. And everything around us turned black. And your natural impulse would be to run away from this, right? To get away, because if there were a spark or something like that, it would be an explosion.
Right.
And that's what happened in Landman. They had a they had an explosion. We were
Oh,
lucky,
wow.
but we ran toward the blowout preventer because we had to get that thing back on the rig, and we ended up getting it back on the rig. But literally, I was lucky to be alive because that was a very dangerous situation, and we were coated with oil from head to toe. We were black, solid black, from head to toe. Anyway,
I
yeah, the lesson there
you've
is
piqued my
use
yeah.
the blowout preventer.
Yeah, you've piqued my interest. I am definitely going to check that out. The next question is, how has your family contributed to who you are now?
Well, I've got a great family. I've got a son who lives in California. He is 6'8", and I'm real proud of him. He's a real good athlete, and he's smart, and he comes and sees me about once a year here in Texas, and we go to South by Southwest. And then whenever I can, I get out to California to see him. My sister, who's 5 years younger than me, lives in California. She's on a 6 month cruise right now,
Oh,
and
wow.
and I'm
Okay.
following her. I'm really enjoying following her adventures on this cruise ship because she takes photos, and once a day she picks out her best photo and she puts it on a website called Flickr. Have you ever heard of Flickr?
Yes. Yes, I
Anyway,
have.
she's a premium member on Flickr, has a big following. So every day she'll be in Thailand or she'll be in Vietnam or somewhere, on this cruise, and I'll get to see her picture of the day. So I'm enjoying that. And then I have a wonderful wife. Dot is my wife, and she's comes from Canada. I won't go into what's happening in Canada right now, but she's from Canada, and she is a Mennonite background, and she was born in South America, and then her whole family's in Canada, and we go to visit them a lot, and they're kind of like my extended family, and she's got some great brothers and sisters, so every time we go to Canada to Vancouver, we have a wonderful time. We go around and to her family farm and see her brothers. A couple of them are lawyers. One of them's a farmer, and then her brother-in-law Len is a tech guy, flies airplanes and does all kinds of cool tech stuff. So we never run out of things to do on our trips to Canada. So I've had a good family experience.
That's fantastic. And we want to say thank you to Miss Dot for sharing you with us tonight. The next question is, what is it like managing multiple streaming video production sets?
Uh, well, I only have a few, and I'm not really a video professional. I'm kind of a property owner who has a lot of rentals, and I have a lot of property business. But I do Zoom on the side, and I build studios on the side. It's kind of as a hobby, as something that I learned from. And what I find is that even though I'm not in the professional production business, I find that it's being connected to office hours and to the people on office hours has been incredibly helpful to me in everything I do in terms of if I'm in like a real estate meeting on Zoom, I'm always in a good position in terms of having it together in terms of audio, video, and all that. And I just enjoy building out these little studios. And I'm also a ham radio operator, so my studios are a little different because I've got ham radio equipment and audio equipment and video equipment all mixed together. And sometimes they work together well, and sometimes they don't. Like tonight, I was going to do this show on my Mac Mini, and boom, it just wouldn't work with me. So I quickly switched over to my PC. So I'm PC based tonight.
Well, I want to say I think we both look pretty good, so we can both thank office hours for the fact that we look pretty good, and we are not spending major dollars to look as good as we do. So I agree with you. A lot of meetings that I'm in, I look pretty good. Most of the time, I'm the best looking person in terms of video setup and audio setup in the room. So we want to shout out office hours, and they are a 5013C. So feel free to donate to them as well.
Yeah, office hours, great organization.
Do you miss Blab?
I barely remember Blab. Blab kind of comes up when somebody surfaces like you or somebody else. And who have you talked to on Blab lately?
I haven't talked to anybody that's office hours related that was a part of Blab, but I have talked to a few people from Blab. Uh, Lydia Madison, um, my radio friend, New Media Radio. Um, I have a conversation every now and then with our friend Stan Bush. I don't know if you remember him or
I
not.
remember Stan Bush. Yeah.
And Guy's back. He says, "All right." So, so Guy says, "How many mics do you have?"
Oh, Guy Cochran. You want to know how many
Yeah.
mics I have? Huh? Okay. I don't have an exact accurate count for you, but oh man, I don't know, a couple dozen. I don't know. It depends on how what do you define as a mic? Do you define the mics that are in my webcams as mics, or those mics, or do you just define things like this? Like this. This happens to be a Lewitt microphone.
Let's
Lewitt, Lewitt.
let's define it by separate mics like the one you're using right now.
Pro
So
grade mics. I don't know. I've got
yes.
maybe a dozen Shure mics, and I've got some Sennheiser, a few Sennheisers, two or three of those, and then some. I've got two of these Lewitts, and what else? What else have I got? What have I got over here? I've got this. Can't get it in the picture. It's a MV. I've got the MV series uh, Shures, and they just came out with the MV7 Plus, and that's my favorite mic right now. But I've got here in Texas, I've got the original MV7. I think I got three of those. I've got the MV7 Plus, and then the newer MV7 and the older MV7. The MV7 went from a old USB type connector, the old connector
Mm-hmm.
that's not symmetrical, where you have to plug it in the right way and where it
Mm-hmm.
falls out easily. I keep that in there with rubber bands.
Okay.
And then so I don't know, I could go on and on.
So let's do this. So do you have less than 50 mics?
Yeah. Yeah, easily.
Okay. Do you have less than 30 mics?
I have you're getting close. You're getting in the ballpark. Probably between 20 and 30.
Okay. So we're going to say going forward that Paul does not have 100 plus mics. He has around 20, between 20 and 30 mics. And so we're going to dispel this myth that you have over 100 mics.
Yeah, as
How
much
about
as
that,
I,
Paul?
yeah, as much as I'd like to perpetuate the myth, guy, it's a myth.
Okay, God, thank you so
But if
much
you
for
want
your
to
question.
perpetuate it, go ahead. Go right ahead. That's fine.
Okay. Can you please talk about your desire to continue to push the envelope with learning new things?
Um,
You have an appetite, and I'm just gonna go ahead and embellish on the question from this standpoint. You are a role model for me in that you don't seem to be able to reach a level where you want to stop. You continue to push the envelope. You are up to date on whatever's new is coming out. You ask, I want to say, great questions on office hours. And the fact that you have this desire to continue to learn new things, try things, experiment. So can you talk more about why that is and what is the the urgency, not urgency, but the enthusiasm that you have to continue to learn new things?
well, I've always been uh, sort of ahead of the curve. You know, back in the early days of computers and the internet, I was always like one step ahead. And now we're in an age of AI and robots and computers and all the new breaking developments where it's impossible. You have to drag race like hell to to even barely keep up these days, and to keep at my age, I'm fighting memory loss. So my goal is just to stay alert, to try to keep up with the curve as much as possible. But man, we're swimming upstream, Tony. It's big time hard to keep up these days with advancing technologies.
What AI are you using?
I'm using a variety, Perplexity, and then just the AI that comes with Google, the Gemini. I can remember Gemini because I'm a Sagittarius, and I think Gemini is the opposite of Sagittarius. That's how I remember it. But that's a good one. And then there's this one called Notebook LM, which is really cool because you can take a whole bunch of documents and websites and other data sources, compile them in a list, and then you can ask that data pool. You can ask it questions and come up with answers based on the data that you select, which is really cool. I mean, if I've got like a real estate project or some kind of project that I want to analyze, I just feed it all my documents and I put it in there. And then the novelty part of it is that once you're done with all your data analysis and all that, it can create a podcast.
Wow.
It creates a podcast, and it's this kind of I don't know how you describe the voices. They're kind of corny voices, and but they have a discussion based on your data set that you've created, and during that podcast, you can interject questions and kind of steer the podcast in a direction you want. So, I mean, this is like I would compare the state of AI and this tool to similar to VisiCalc. It's like the VisiCalc of our day. Do you know what VisiCalc is?
No, what is it?
VisiCalc was the first spreadsheet. Well, this is the first really kind of new tool that's like the first spreadsheet. First there was VisiCalc, and then there was AppleWorks, and then there was Excel, and now there's Google Sheets. And we're in such a primitive phase of AI and robotics and quantum computing. I don't want to even go into quantum computing. I've got a friend in Austin, Worley, everybody calls him. He's like the king of quantum computing, and I think we're going to see some amazing things when quantum computing gets connected with AI, and then robotics gets tossed into the mix. It's going to be pretty interesting times. We
What's
haven't seen
what,
much yet, is what I'm saying.
what do you think about the new platform from China called DeepSeek?
It's hard to gauge. It could be just a copycat where they've gone in and copied the code from OpenAI and repurposed it. It's it. I've heard different versions of what it is. It's a cheap AI, but is it? But is there any original work gone into making it? Probably not. It's probably just a copycat. It's kind of like what Bill Gates did with Microsoft. It, the winner isn't always the first one in the game. The winner is the one that can take take what's out there and repurpose it and make it more cost effective. I don't know what to tell you about that. I tried it a couple times and I deleted it. Okay.
Okay, okay. I'm curious. The reason that you deleted it, was it because it's from China, or was it because you
Yeah, because
just
it's
didn't
from
have an
China.
interest?
It's from China. I got enough China stuff around here. I got a little robot. It's a ball, like a bowling ball, that runs around my house. It's from China, and we call it Wilson. It's about the size of
Okay,
a volleyball. And
okay,
I don't know. I turned Wilson off for a while too.
okay, okay, okay. So, getting back to AI just for a few moments, do you remember what the cost of the LM note is?
It's free.
It's free.
Yeah, free. Notebook LM is free. Yeah,
That's
and it's a pretty
fantastic.
good deal. Free is a good deal
Okay. Yeah,
for what it
absolutely
does.
free.
For what
Free
it
is a
for what
great
it
deal.
does. I mean, if you have a project and you want to really go deep into that project and get it organized, it's a great tool. It's a really great tool, and I can only see it uh, getting better and better.
Okay. Could we talk a little bit about your ability to generate so many questions in office hours? Um, what is your process to do that?
Well, it's kind of like before office hours came along, I was prepping myself to do a tech news show about Austin, Texas, and so I had a lot of the sources and background in place. So uh, the the tech show was going to be focused on robotics and on software and web development. And so that was kind of when office hours came along, the things kind of merged. What I was doing with the prep for the tech news show, and so and I'm a big fan of Leo Laporte. Who Leo Laporte is, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah. Anyway, he
That's the reason that we're here tonight. Part
right,
of the reason I was
right,
following Leo, and when Alex was on MacBook, Mac
Mac Break
Break
Weekly.
Weekly, and I was watching Leo long time ago when it was just the singular show, and I followed him when he moved his show to Canada, and Amber and all the whole gang. So
He moved to Canada.
he was doing a show in Canada,
Oh,
a
he
tech
did
show
a
in
show.
Canada.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah, he was doing
yeah.
a tech show in Canada for a while.
Well, I was a big fan of his back around 2006, and I think the years right. in 2007, I heard he was coming to South by Southwest. So I had a co-working space in Austin. It was called Texas Co-working. And so I invited him to just set up shop there for free for a week and do all the shows. So he was in Austin for a week during South by, and I got to know him and know some of the people that were doing his shows. He had Tom Merritt was there, and bunch of his early shows he was doing there, and so that kind of spurred my interest in tech news. I mean, such
Mhm.
an incredible feat that he pulled off to have all those shows on all those different aspects of tech. I mean, he's got Windows, he's got Mac, he's got Linux, anything you can think of. He's got a show about it.
iOS devices,
Yeah, iOS. Yeah. So
yeah,
does that answer your
Google
question? I kind of
devices.
skated around that one a little bit,
That's
but
that's
there we
okay.
go.
That's okay. We're good. Um, Zachary Sorensen, our TD for tonight, also asked, Spotify did something cool with Google LM for the end of the year wrap. So, were you aware of that, Paul?
No, it's the first I've heard of it, Zachary. That's Zachary, you brought us breaking news.
Thank you, Zachary. And again, Zachary is our TD, technical director, and he is from Queensland, Australia. And I believe it's the AM morning for him right now. And Guy is back. How did you become the most popular man on Twitter?
Well, whether I was the most popular man on Twitter was debatable, but because at the time it was between me and Leo Laporte and Robert Scoble and a couple other people, and it was 2007, and yeah, I just happened to be at South by Southwest when Twitter launched in 2007. And they launched at the Austin Convention Center. And when you walked around the convention center, they had these big screens up high all over the convention center with the Twitter feed. And I thought, wow. And it just happened to be an off week. I was working at the San Jose Hotel in Austin, Texas, as the IT guy. I mean, I was the IT guy. There wasn't anybody else. It was me, and I did
Okay.
the reservation system. I did the Wi-Fi network. I did the uh, what else did I do? I set up everybody's computers. I did their website, and I did their point of sale system because they had two coffee houses. They were like a rock and roll boutique hotel where bands like the Talking Heads stayed. You know, it was like a hotel that was like the hip, trendy hotel in Austin. And I was so lucky to get to be the IT guy. But it just happened that during that week, I didn't have much to do. I was on top of everything. The Wi-Fi was working, the point of sale wasn't breaking and everything. So I had a lot of spare time, and I thought maybe this hotel needs to have a presence, and I need to have a presence on Twitter. So I got on there and wrote a command line program that let me interface with Twitter, that let me add people and post things quickly without having to go through a lot of the graphic stuff. You know, it was just purely command line interface that I had written myself, and so I developed what I had like 30,000 followers or something, and you know,
Wow.
and
Wow.
then the New York Times got a hold of the the information that I was on there, and they wrote an article, and then BuzzFeed followed up with an article that's still up there. You can still look it up on BuzzFeed. Just go to BuzzFeed and type Paul Walhus, Walhus, and King of Twitter, and it'll come up. That article will come up. And so anyway, what was I really the king of Twitter? Who knows? Those other guys were certainly more prominent than I was. But I had some time on my hands, and I happened to be at the Austin Convention Center right when they blew the lid off of Twitter, which is now X, of course. Anyway, I don't have near the
That's
following now. I think I've been minimized on Twitter now. I'm been minimized. There's other
well,
forces
how
at
many
work
years
on
has it?
Twitter.
How many years has it been, Paul? Since you said 2007 when it
Yeah, you got
launched?
to do the math. Do the math. Let's
Yeah.
see. What is
So
this?
this is 25. So what? At least
25.
40, 20, 21 years.
Yeah, 20 years, couple decades. Yeah, couple
Yeah. Yeah.
decades. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I'll make a comeback. I'm starting to make a comeback on I think I'm planning a comeback on YouTube because at that time I also was doing like running around the convention center with a couple of Shure microphones and a rig and a good camera and doing a lot of interviews, and the interviews did pretty well. I did probably 300 interviews, but in that span of time back in that era between 2007 and 2010, and they're all still on YouTube under my SpringNet SpringNet handle, and I'm thinking of picking up the ball again. I kind of dropped the ball for the last
Why not? Why
decade,
not, Paul?
So
Why not?
why not pick up the ball and
Absolutely.
shoot a few more hoops, make a few more
Yes, sir.
videos.
Yes, sir. I there's a couple of personal things I want to ask you. Are you driving an electric vehicle?
I have an electric vehicle. I have a Ionic 5, but I don't drive it a lot. I'll tell you why. Texas is a big state, and there aren't that many charging stations, even though Tesla would have you believe that there are not. So if I go, say, from here to Arkansas, there's only one route I can take, and that's to the Ionic charging stations at 3 Walmarts along the way. That'll get me. That'll get me there. Maybe I could stretch it and go to two Walmarts, but you have to go to those stations because they have the high powered chargers. I don't like I don't like interstates that much. I like to go across Texas. I like to take my time, kind of. You know, there's a song called "Miles and Miles of Texas," and I like driving at a less frantic pace than mixing it up with all these 18 wheelers. So I tend to take the back roads when I go back and forth, and it might take me another hour, but it's worth it, because I can stop more frequently and really get a look at things better. And there's really not that much traffic on the back roads, and so the electric cars kind of stayed in the garage. I've got a Ionic 5 and I've got a Chrysler Pacifica, and it's a 23 Pacifica. I've got like less than 100 miles on it. I got a couple thousand miles on my Ionic, but I really like my Ford F-150 gas guzzler. It gets
Is
me
that what you take?
back and
To,
forth.
that's
That's what
what
I
you take to
drive.
go back and forth from
Yeah,
Texas to
yeah,
Arkansas?
the F-150. Yeah,
And what year is the F-150?
it's a 2014, and it's got about
24.
20,000 miles on it.
Okay. Okay. Paul, another personal question. So the are you still downtown Austin,
No,
Texas?
I'm out in Cedar Creek. I'm out here in Cedar Creek, Texas. It's about 20 miles out. It's about 15 minutes from the Austin airport, and I'm right in the epicenter of a tech explosion that's happening right around me because this guy
Okay.
who's in Washington right now doing all kinds of stuff is building factories out here. He built the The Boring Company is out here. The Starlink factory is out here. You would not believe this Starlink factory. It's huge. And the Twitter, of all things, Twitter has moved out here, and
Oh, wow.
they have their headquarters. They're 5.9 miles from my house. It's a straight drive. I drive 6 miles, and I'm at Twitter headquarters. They're building their headquarters out in a big field. They're building these giant buildings, and that's like the that's going to transform this area incredibly. Having that technology base out here is just something that's unbelievable. So, I have a lot of people who live with me who work at Twitter, who work at Starlink, the Boring Company, and I got a guy who's working at the Tesla plant, renting rooms and cottages from me right now. So I'm in the midst of a. Who would thought? Who would have thought that I moved out to the country to kind of get away from tech, and tech chased me out here. It's it's all around me now. It's a mixed blessing, double-edged sword, mixed blessing.
Well, Paul, I'm going to tell you, I did do a little research before our conversation today, and I can tell you that if there is a person who is in fact the 20th century Renaissance man, that would be you. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here with me today. I really wanted to share that. I wanted to make sure I got that in because you have had so many different experiences. Um, you have several degrees. You have worked in the oil fields. You worked for corporate America and IBM and other companies, and you've just done just about a little bit of everything in a lot of different facets. And so it's too many to even name. But I wanted to make sure that I got that in before we get down to our last three questions. And so I just wanted to share that with you, and thank you so much for again coming on with me.
Yeah, we
And
barely
so,
scratched the surface, Tony. We barely
right,
scratched the surface.
I
Covered this
recognize
much.
that.
There's more.
So the next question is: are there any new projects that you can talk about?
Hmm. There's a couple I can't talk about that I'm working on right now, but uh, yeah, I can't talk about it. Sorry.
Well, let's do this. When you can talk about them, come back. Let me know. Come back, and then we'll talk about them on the show. How about
All
that?
right. Yeah, I've got some projects that they're just it wouldn't help the projects to make them public at this stage.
Okay, gotcha. All right. So what's next for Paul Vahus?
Man, I'm gonna maybe get back into doing video interviews and kind of do them more home-based video interviews, kind of like what you're doing, Tony. I really admire what you've been doing with your interviews. You do such an incredible job, and it's just a matter of getting out and doing it because through office hours and through my career and through my social media, I have so many people that I want to talk to in depth, like you're talking to me in depth right now. I'd like to do some of that. And I'd also like to get out and about and cover some trade shows and some events, and, just enjoy kind of my semi retirement, my wannabe retirement.
Uh, uh, I was listening to you talk about that when you said semi-retirement, and there is a friend of ours that talks often about failing retirement, and and I think you fit that category as
Yeah,
well.
I'm failing at retirement, that's for sure.
Yes.
I can't
Oh,
relax for too long. Sometimes I relax too much, though, so I got to break that habit.
Okay, we're down to our very last question. So, the very last question, and you probably already know, you're speaking to the world. What do you want the world to know?
Oh man, can you make it more specific, Tony? Give me a more specific question.
So, if you were to, this is your opportunity to talk to the entire world with everything that's going on in this world right now, what would you say?
I would
Particularly
say
with a wife that's, and I'm getting a little political, particularly with a wife that's from Canada, what would you say?
we all need to kind of slow down a little bit and assess where we're going and really enjoy life and take care of ourselves, physically. Don't get immersed in phones and technology too much. There's things that we can enjoy like swimming and boating and pickleball and in
Yeah, we
fitness
did.
training. I didn't
Yeah,
even
we did.
talk about the
We didn't talk about the fact that you were a certified fitness trainer. How old were you when you did that? When you got that certification?
that was immediately pre-COVID, and I had just gotten my instructor training certificate at the University of Texas. And
Wow.
I was the last old guy to ever get that because after I took the class, they put an age restriction on it. But I was
Wow.
70 something years old when I got that degree. And I had started teaching aqua fitness and Nike fitness training and various other, Pilates and so forth. And then the COVID hit, and that just wiped out that whole career path. It was gone because we couldn't assemble anymore in classes. So yeah, yeah, it's too bad.
Like I said, 20th century or 21st century Renaissance man. Thank you so much,
Well, I
Paul.
think you're
Wow.
getting just a little carried away there, Tony.
Well,
But I'll take it. I'll take it.
you know what?
But maybe
I I can
maybe
say
maybe
it. I can
that's going
say
to
it,
do this
Paul.
to me. I don't need that.
I can say it, Paul, because the evidence is there.
All right.
The fact of the matter is that the evidence is there, so I can say it. And so again, thank you, Paul Valhus, for being here with me tonight. Conversation with Tony Mobley is produced by valued audiovisual professionals who meet daily on Office Hours Global, hosted by Alex Lindsay. And we want to say thank you to Mimo Live. This conversation was powered by Mimo Live. We have conversations with real people. We ask that you stay tuned for new episodes and great conversations. Thank you, everyone, for the 100 plus episodes of Conversation with Tony Mobley. When you have time, we ask that you go back and look at some of those conversations with Tony Mobley. We think you will find something that you like, and hopefully it will be helpful to you. Thank you, Paul, for being a part of this conversation today, for being the person who you are, for doing the work that you do. Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you, Tony. You're doing a heck of a job. Keep on doing
Thank
it.
you, sir. Stay tuned for future guests coming on Conversation with Tony Mobley. We ask that if you like what we're doing, we ask that you go to YouTube, like, and subscribe. We are setting a goal to increase our subscriptions to 1,000. We are stuck at about 600. So we want to increase that to 1,000. So we ask that you like and subscribe. And thank you so much for your attention today. Thank you. Take care. God bless. See you soon. Bye bye.